first learned about the myth of the liver birds when I came here to study as a student, and I worked in a pub and people were talking about it inside the pub. Really random, but people just like to tell each other about the urban myth. I guess it's passed through generations, and finding someone who was new to the area seemed to excite people to have that chance to tell me, to tell their story, and kind of, maybe they'd practiced it over the years, but everyone who tells the life bird myth in Liverpool seems to know it in a real kind of dramatic way. I decided to write about the liver birds because it was my third novel, and I'd kind of set it where I used to live. And then I decided, when it was coming up to novel 4, that perhaps it was time to set some novels in Liverpool. And because Liverpool is such a rich city in terms of storytelling, it seemed obvious to include the liver birds within the novel. So I started researching Liverpool as a city to kind of try and get some ideas of a story that I could tell, and something that hadn't been done as well. So when I was researching, I had the liver bird myth in the back of my mind. And then I came across some research about the Beatles roadie called Mal Evans. And obviously everyone associates with Liverpool the liver birds and the Beatles. So I was like, okay, is there any way that I can combine those two aspects? And Mal Evans hadn't really been written about. So Mal Evans, at the time when I was researching him, when he died, basically his archive, so his collection of things from his time with the Beatles, went missing. And I saw an article where a guy, I think it was in Australia, had claimed that he'd found in a car boot sale this suitcase full of Mal Evans' archive. So I decided, okay, what if I brought that back to Liverpool? Well, how would it get here? Well, let's say it comes in on a train into Lime Street Station. I was like, okay. And then I did some more research and I found out about the Williamson tunnels, which is this really eccentric guy who built tunnels underneath his house, and they're kind of underneath the city. I thought, all right, let's kind of look at those and put them near Lime Street Station. And then I was like, right, well, what about the liver bird myth as well? And I thought, okay, what if I made somebody who worked in the Lost Property Office in Lime Street Station believe that they were the liver bird of Lime Street Station? So the idea was that she would believe that if she ever left Lime Street Station, then the whole station and the city would fall into the tunnels underneath. So it was kind of like a combining of these urban myths, these stories that were told around the city, into something set in the heart of the city, which Lime Street Station. If I'm thinking about an intended message, a decision to include the myth into the story, I think Liverpool as a city being so rich in storytelling, and this idea of passing on these stories through generation. And every time we tell an urban myth, we add something of ourselves to it. And I think it was about this sense of wanting to belong, wanting to add to the history of the city. And if you have kind of nomadic roots, which I do, I don't quite belong anywhere, there's this desire to belong somewhere, and by adding part of myself to the story, I guess I'm hoping that I'm writing myself into an urban myth, and also kind of bringing that sense of identity in the Liverpool to the world, because the novel sold around the world. So I kind of added to the urban myth, but then also made other people around the world, informed about the myth as well. Well, I have my own ideas on this because I moved house recently, and like I say, I'm not from this area, and I moved house and now I live on the river, so my house overlooks the River Mersey. And so I did do some research, and I found out that King Henry III, when we were looking at trade seals for the city, they wanted like an emblem, they wanted something that would represent the city. But every day when I look out of my window, I see cormorants. There are 4 of them that nest just outside my house. And so obviously if they've been here for generations, then it made sense, they're on the River Mersey, for them to be the bird for the city. But also I think because we're storytellers, we like to make stories around these emblems that are there. So we see the 2 birds and we think, okay, one's looking out to sea, one's looking in, and Liverpool has such humour that they've formed this idea that one's looking out for the men to return and the other is looking for the men in the pub. You know, there's different kind of ideas and takes on it, but I think so with a kind of blending fact and storytelling together, which is what the city does.